Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast may contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews, be sure to check out our show on YouTube. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
The night's hot as hell. It's a lousy room in a lousy part of a lousy town, and I'm staring at a microphone. You were scared, weren't you, Robert Rodriguez? Somebody wanted your movie dead, and you knew it. Well, I'm gonna find that son of a bitch that gave you a bad review, and I'm gonna give him the hard goodbye. Walk down the right alley in this city, and you can find Reviews Without Remorse. And this is episode number 106. And in this episode, the Oscars was Sunday night, and the Academy proves once again to be completely out of touch. We will comment. Just when you thought it was dead, X-Men Dark Phoenix rises from the ashes with another trailer. Dave and I will comment. And then, there's no justice without sin. So Dave and I discuss the 2005 Frank Miller and Robert Rodriguez collaboration, Sin City. What's up, partner?
Oh boy, the news alone is going to be fun. This episode discussing this movie is going to be interesting as hell.
I completely agree. Let's get to it.
Before we get to the really messed up parts of this stuff, I just want to start with the thing that they always mess up every year, and I kind of feel like we have to cover that first.
Oh my goodness, go ahead.
Okay? Every year, they do their little in memoriam segment. Every year, somebody big gets missed. Now, the first person I'm going to point out who they got Stan Lee, and Stan Lee got a decent amount of applause, so I'm kind of sort of okay with that. Now, the first person I'm going to point out that they missed, and I'm putting them in kind of with an asterisk because he died the day of the ceremony, so maybe there just really was sincerely no time to add him. Stanley Donen.
Yeah.
Okay, the last of the great classic Hollywood directors. Singing in the Rain is probably his biggest and most noteworthy contribution to cinema.
Yeah.
Okay, so then forgetting him, I was kind of like, you know what? It was the last minute. I'm going to kind of give it a forgiveness.
Yeah, I felt the same way about that. I thought, again, these people are just so inept that it's almost like I'll forgive them for pretty much anything. But how hard would it have been to put, just an extra slide at the end? People would have understood.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go down the list, and the list is kind of in a, so I can almost understand you're out of your mind for forgetting this person. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, bottom of the list, and it's a short list, so it's kind of appropriate that we start with Vern Troyer.
Yes. Again, that's, somebody who is, again, didn't exactly have a long, illustrious career in filmmaking, but everyone knows who he is.
Mm-hmm. And he's made a permanent impact on the medium, especially in comedies. But of course, the Academy doesn't give a crap about comedies, so maybe I shouldn't be too surprised. Next up, my man Dick Miller, and that's why I wanted to make sure we covered him, because I knew for a fact that this guy with almost 200 freaking credits to his name doesn't get a mention.
Unbelievable. I'll tell you what, by the way, you, my friend, just so people know, my partner Dave is the guy who always, if somebody died that week, he's the one who adds it to the news. It honestly would have gotten past me 90% of the time. But you have been on this, and you specifically said, because the Oscars are just so damn inept at remembering people that should be remembered, we're going to have this segment when somebody passes on, and we will talk about them, and we did. So I have to tell you, when I saw the list of the people that they missed, I was thrilled that these were the people that we focused on.
Yeah, except for one, but we're going to get to that one. We didn't focus on that one, but we'll get to that.
Go ahead.
Next up, we have Arlie Emery.
Yep.
Or Arlie Ermy, excuse me. We knew they were going to skip him, because as far as they were concerned, he was just in that one Stanley Kubrick movie. That alone, for the fact that he made himself a memorable piece in a Stanley Kubrick movie, should have earned him an in memoriam.
Seriously. The clip, what a fantastic clip to throw in of him from that movie. What a missed opportunity.
Dumbasses. Next up, we've got John Mahoney.
Yep.
Now, Now, a lot of people think, oh, he's from Frasier. It's like, no, this dude was an actor in film for years. Say Anything, The American President. He deserved his day in court for his passing. So that is just outrageous to me. But to me, the most outrageous one, this is the one that to me is the most outrageous one. And in fact, we didn't cover this death because when it happened, I was like, oh, well, there's no reason for us to cover it. A, we're not very knowledgeable on her career. And B, she's been in Hollywood for so many years. There's no way they'll forget her. But they did. Carol Channing didn't get mentioned. How the hell, man?
God, what is wrong with these people? Carol, when I was young, I mean, again, I was little when she was big, but she was like a household name.
Yeah, no kidding. Everybody knows who freaking Carol Channing is.
Don't know what's wrong with these people. It's really amazing.
I don't even know. It's like everybody's got short-term memory or something like that.
Guys, it's a Google search for crying out loud. Like, how hard could it be to get these names together? I mean, they come up with these really obscure people, who no one would ever know.
No one outside the industry would know.
Exactly, right. I mean, right. Industry insiders that no one outside the industry would ever know. Yet these big names, they like go completely past them? Absolutely ridiculous. And we're not done, by the way.
Oh no, we're not done.
Aretha Franklin. Now, I know she's more known as a musician, absolutely, but she was in the Blues Brothers. I know she's made other appearances. So
she's appeared in a couple of movies. I had forgotten about that they didn't cover Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, I mean, I
think we covered Aretha Franklin, didn't we?
We might have, because I actually, you know what? I think we did, because I seem to remember playing the clip.
Yeah,
from the Blues Brothers.
I'm pretty sure we did. I wasn't expecting them to honestly cover her because it's the same excuse that they used with Adam West. He was TV. It's like, no, he was an actor in movies before he was on TV.
Right.
Just because TV is his most famous role doesn't mean you should snob yourself.
And not for nothing, if you're gonna err on the side of inclusion, not on the side of not. And by the way, there is one more big one.
Oh my God, I feel out of touch. Go on.
How about, and we covered it, don't worry. But how about the producer of Star Wars? Gary Kurtz never got a mention. Gary Kurtz. You want to talk about an insider who people should be aware of?
I didn't even realize they hadn't mentioned him. Holy shnikes. That's just unforgivable.
Unbelievable. I mean, seriously, this is a pretty hefty list I've got in front of me of people that they did not mention. I mean, that is baffling that this many people this year got snubbed. Holy cow.
Ridiculous. Which brings us to the next part.
Yeah. So what? Well,
where do you want to start? I'm going to let you start. I started with the in memoriam thing. You tell me where you want to start.
You know what? There weren't a whole lot of things that really sort of jumped out at me that I thought were like just awful. But I mean, again, it's such, the whole thing now has nothing to do with film and everything to do with a social issue scorecard that it's. I mean, what's gonna win? The one with the most social issues squeezed in it. So I mean, when you look at the list, you're just like, yeah, pretty much. But I had no problem with Green Book winning. Again, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard nothing but praise.
I have a huge problem with Green Book winning.
Okay.
Huge problem with Green Book winning. And you know why I have a huge problem with Green Book winning? Because it's such a fake. It's like driving Miss Daisy in reverse, getting an Oscar again. And the family of the guy who was being driven around, the Mahershala Ali guy, okay, has come out and said, this shit didn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay? This relationship that these two had is almost complete fabrication in this movie.
Right.
So it's a fake win.
Well, yeah, there you go. I mean, I don't know. I'm for creative liberties, and I'm for taking historic events and weaving a narrative around it. I'm torn on that. But yeah, but when you look at it again, it's like you said, it's driving Miss Daisy again.
Yeah.
Is it really pioneering? Is it really groundbreaking? I don't know. But then again, I don't really know if anything on this list is what I would call groundbreaking. I kind of felt like every Best Picture nominee this year was pretty standard fare. So, I there's nothing really in there that I was like, oh, they got robbed, So, yeah, I'm fine with it, I guess.
Black Panther may be an African hero, but his story and his appeal are universal. I know this personally because of all the people who constantly come up to me and say, Wakanda forever. Everywhere in the world, my African friends are like, Wakanda forever. In France, I've had people say, hello, Trevor Noah, you say Wakanda forever, no? Even backstage, Mel Gibson came up to me like, Wakanda forever. He said another word after that, but the Wakanda part was nice.
Black Panther. They were dying to get Black Panther in the Oscars somehow. They were dying to give it something. So I kind of feel like the things that they gave it were just sort of okay. Costume design, on the other hand.
Yeah, they deserved it for that.
It was a very creative movie in terms of that. Like, they were trying to create a culture. Like, sort of a weird hybrid of old versus new, way, like, ancient versus modern. So I do sort of feel like in that respect, yes, I think they need some props for that. So that I didn't have. And again, if they gave that away to just a couple more, 18th century period pieces, I'd be like, all right, come on, guys. We've been there before. Another one that I kind of, and this might surprise you a little bit, another one that, well, there was two that bothered me. One was that Best Visual Effects went to First Man.
I am pissed. Go on.
But along with that, I was annoyed that Best Sound Mixing did not go to First Man. And sound editing, by the way, because I kind of felt like, I kind of railed on First Man in my top 10 this year because I felt like, again, this was a struggle to get through about characters that I don't like, et cetera, et cetera. However, technically, it was a wildly capable film. And, visual effects, okay, I didn't really see anything that I felt was that difficult to pull off. The look of it was very grounded and whatever. Sound design, I thought that's where that film really excelled. So I kind of felt like they really sort of turned these categories on their head, and to give Best Special Effects to First Man, come on, next to Infinity War, for God's sake.
That is an insult, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, each of the nominees, the weakest special effects-wise was Ready Player One. Okay.
Well, but it was ambitious.
Yes,
I wasn't crazy
so it deserved
about
the nomination.
Yeah. I agree with you. I thought the special effects were not my cup of tea because I thought it was very bombarding, but it was incredibly ambitious. As opposed to what? First Man, and we need to do a scene where he lands on the moon? That's the hardest thing that film had to do?
I don't understand. That just kind of feels like, you know what? We've given Oscars already to other comic book movies. We're not giving it to one here. Solo had great special effects. I felt that train sequence was really, really well done.
Absolutely.
And even Christopher Robin, the integration of Pooh with Christopher Robin was nearly seamless. So, again, it deserved the nomination. But I am sorry, none of that beats Thanos.
I'm with you 100%, 100%. And again, that is really irritating when they're trying so hard to give Black Panther awards when Infinity War tap danced on that film. As far as ambition and as far as succeeding in things like visual effects. That was just insane. The only other thing I wanted to throw out was that the only other surprise was that the Ruth Bader Ginsburg documentary did not win.
I was shocked. I was honestly shocked.
I was with you. I was surprised. I had heard really good things about Free Solo, but I also heard wonderful things about Won't You Be My Neighbor, which didn't even get a nomination.
Which should have won.
Ridiculous. So I'm wondering, maybe at the 11th hour they kind of said, okay, we can't be this obvious and give it to the Ruth Bader Ginsburg one. But yeah, okay. But tell me about the thing that was good, and I know what you're going to say, and I'm with you 100%.
Since 2006, Best Animated Movie has always gone to a Disney flick. Not this year. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Best Animated Movie, and truly deserved from that list.
I completely agree. The story was great. The style was groundbreaking. And that was a visual, it was just amazing all around. I'm with you there. I was very impressed with that and very happy. And it's a Sony movie too.
Yes, it's a Sony movie.
I shouldn't like it, but I do.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have not seen the movie, they're re-releasing it this weekend in IMAX. I highly recommend that you check it out in IMAX.
And that is the 2019 Oscars. Once again, way to go, guys.
Why did you make me do that?
Look at me. Focus on my voice. I'm not giving up on you, Jean.
She was my friend.
You're my family, Jean. Stop, no matter what.
Stop.
So, my friend, tell me, did this Dark Phoenix trailer, did it impress you? Did it warm you up to the idea anymore? What did you think?
Nope. No change. if anything, it kind of pissed me off even more.
Really?
Oh yeah. Hey, let's spoil the big death.
You know, I'll tell you what, I did find out that, yes, that death was spoiled. I think if I didn't do any research on it, though, and I didn't find out conclusively that was the case, I don't think I would have gotten that from the trailer. I kind of felt like, people get blown all over the place all the time, and they get up and they dust themselves off, so I didn't really think much of it, but yeah, they did spoil that. And in fairness, and I'm just trying to be diplomatic, that could all be in the first 20 minutes of the film. And frankly, it could be because Jennifer Lawrence says, I ain't wearing this dumb blue paint anymore. Fine, we'll kill you off in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, but she wasn't obligated to this movie. Her contract was done.
Well, I mean, she might have just said, okay, but I want you to kill my character off because I don't want to do anymore. As opposed to just not showing up, this was her idea. And maybe I shouldn't even point fingers at her. I mean, that's just my assumption, knowing what I know about her. And, it is, it's one of those situations. And when you look at a lot of the players in the movie, you sort of say to yourself, like, this franchise could run into that Star Trek problem where they can't afford their own actors anymore because they were nothings when they picked them, but now suddenly they're all popular. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. Well, first of all, I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know about all the test screenings and how just abysmal they are going. Apparently the test screenings are just going awful. To the point where I was actually sort of impressed that a new trailer came out. I thought for sure they might even just pull the plug on this, but here we are. And honestly, I did feel like a lot was given away in that trailer.
I still feel nothing. And you know what? It's in a weird way, it's almost worse now because I know this is the last gasp of an old franchise that is dead now.
Yeah.
There's no future to this anymore. Kevin Feige can tap dance all he wants, but you just know that because they're finalizing the sale, everything gets finalized sometime in March. Okay, that's tomorrow. Tomorrow is March. It's the beginning of March to us. So you just know that he is just like, oh boy, oh boy. So
right.
It's even more useless. It becomes even more useless because no matter what stakes change in this movie, this is the last one. Yeah. I have no emotional connection to any of these particular versions of the character, save for McAvoy's Xavier and Fassbender's Magneto. But I kind of feel like they've also run the course of those two characters as well. Yeah. And their age-old, thing. Yeah. The last trailer, the one thing they got right was when, Magneto said, then you'll stand up, you'll make a speech, and no one will care. And I felt like that was almost over-meta for the characterizations that they've done at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, it is kind of sad because this series really started out strong. First Class was great. Like, that was a nice surprise. And then Days of Future Past, you went, wow, was that good? Yep. And then, slowly petering out after that. And this one, just almost dead on arrival. So it's like, wow, what happened, guys?
People get bored. Bryan Singer is a kid toucher. Who the hell knows?
Well... And with that, we'll move on to our next topic.
Goldie's dead. I've been framed for murder, and the cops are in on it.
Open up, police.
I'll be right out.
Looking for Nancy Callahan?
Eyes to the stage, Pilgrim. She's just warming up.
Made a terrible mistake. We need to get out of here right this second.
This clown's out of control. I followed him here to make sure he didn't hurt any of the girls.
Us helpless little girls.
It's time to prove prove to your friends that you're worth a damn. Sometimes that means dying. Sometimes it means killing a whole lot of people.
A film that explores the dark and miserable town Basin City and tells the story of 3 different people all caught up in violent corruption. Written by Frank Miller from his graphic novel, directed by Frank Miller and Robert Rodriguez, Sin City. First thing about this movie, there is not a film before or since that looks like this movie.
True. Go ahead.
It is unique in its approach, in its appearance, in how it's presented. I mean, basically, what was it, like 95% of the movie was basically filmed on a giant green screen in order to achieve most of this stuff?
I think almost everything.
Pretty much. I got to go look through my special features on the DVD again because it's been a while. And I also don't remember what Robert Rodriguez's 10-minute cooking class was for this DVD either. So
I can tell you, and it was kind of disappointing, frankly.
What was it?
I might have been... it was breakfast tacos.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is
where he spends 20 minutes telling you how to make the tortillas, and then you scramble some eggs and you put the eggs on it. I was like, all right. I mean, all right. We had puerco bibil, which was one of the most magnificent recipes I can remember, and now I'm getting breakfast tacos. And what does that have to do with Sin City? Yeah, whatever.
It was a little lazy. I'll say that. That's what it sounds like to me. As visually striking as it is, you know, even after all these years, I still found it enjoyable. I still found myself wrapped up in it. I found that it moved at a really nice pace. I felt like all the actors tried their best with the, let's face it, the outlandish and ridiculousness of the plot. I mean, this is probably like your first real example of hyperaction, the thing that we've been talking about with movies like Kingsman and stuff like that. I think this is like the first time it's really had its place. I mean, for God's sakes, there's a scene where Mickey Rourke jumps off a building, and the camera kind of follows him as he's falling down into the big old pile of garbage that, as we have established in the past, never has anything sharp in it or anything like that. Right. And then he kind of just runs at a cop car and just kind of kicks in the window with both of his feet.
Yeah.
Okay? It's ridiculous in its action, and yet, maybe it's because of Mickey Rourke, but I kind of liked it.
For the most part, I have to tell you, it's been a while since I've seen this film. And I've always loved this movie. I even have like one of those collector's edition DVDs with like multiple versions or something or other. It's like an inch thick, this thing.
Yeah.
But as I was watching it this time, it was funny. I literally was saying to myself about halfway through, I said, you know what? I'm kind of nervous because I don't know if I have that much to talk about with regards to this film. I kind of feel like
I was kind of worrying about that myself as I was watching, but please continue.
Isn't that funny? I was watching it, and again, I'm watching it for what it is, and I appreciate what it is, and I'm kind of just sort of looking at it, going like, okay, and I feel like when we talk about it, hopefully we can get some things out of it, but I mean we're gonna talk about the technical aspects, obviously. I mean it is trying to be pretty much as close to a live action comic as I think we've seen. I can't really think, I mean, you said it. I don't think we've seen anything quite like it. I mean, I've seen comic adaptations that were, very spot on and very, authentic, very true to its source material. This one literally wants to be almost like a shot for shot telling of a comic and a highly stylized comic, like not just your regular run of the mill superhero comic where you're just drawing real life pictures as accurately as you can. Here, I mean, it's a wild pen and ink, again hyper stylized visual look, and he tried to match that, very faithfully in this. So it is, in many ways, sort of just an experiment in not only the technology but the style. Stylistically speaking, it's very true to its source material, and it does paint a very fascinating noir style comic book look, and it works. I mean, well, most of it works. I did find watching it this time around that I was seeing a lot of limitations with regard to the visuals. And I'm not, again, I hate to even mention that. I kind of feel like, the crusty old man even saying it.
Get off my lawn.
Because this was all about doing something that was new. This never had really been done before, quite like this. If there's anything to compare this to, I'm all ears, but I can't think of anything like you said. So yeah, to pick on it for its limitations visually is I feel like it's kind of unfair. But yeah, there were a lot of moments where I was looking at it and, well, not only was I getting a very distinct sense that it was done on a soundstage, there were also moments where I was just hypersensitive to the fact that this was all shot on video. And I feel like digital photography again. I mean, even right around
this is the early days of digital photography,
right? It wasn't embraced by everyone, and there was a lot of debate between shooting digital and shooting on film. And like a lot of people, like I was kind of like, no, you stick to film because digital's not there yet or whatever. And I just sort of feel like when you're watching some of these shots, you're wildly aware that this was a video shoot, like this was a digital video shoot. So that sort of shines through. There are other moments, like for example, one of the opening shots with Michael Madsen's character and Bruce Willis's character.
Damn it, Hartigan. I won't let you do this. You're gonna get yourself killed. You're gonna get us both killed. I won't let you, I'm warning you.
I got my coat, Bob.
Take a deep breath, Hartigan. Settle down and think straight. You're pushing 60, and you got a bum ticker. You ain't saving anyone.
Got a great attitude, Bob. Real credit to the force you are.
All right, Hartigan, you got a bum ticker and yada yada. And they're talking like before they even do the over-the-shoulder shot. They start out. They're side by side. And when Michael Madsen is speaking, I remember saying to myself, "Wow, I wish they put as much thought into the audio as they did the video." Because I felt like that microphone again is like suspended somewhere in that loud, empty room, and the audio sounds like it. And I kind of felt like I wish they went back and either redubbed some of these takes or just put a little more emphasis on miking them so that it didn't sound. I mean, and plus, again, you visually you're going for an overly stylistic style. So I think if the sound, again, like if it sounded a little too close up or sounded a little too intimate, even though you are several feet away, I think people would have been much more forgiving of that. So yeah, that was bugging me a lot. So yeah, I did find myself really noticing a lot more, the craftsmanship this time around, and the limitations therein. I mean, honestly, I actually had. This is going to be way out there. Do you remember Duality?
Oh Jesus, yes, that fan Star Wars film. That
yes.
Awesome fan Star Wars film. Yes.
There was years ago, and this is the 2000s, maybe even before that, possibly. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like right when, I mean, and people have been doing Star Wars fan films for as long as there's been Star Wars, probably. But there was a film called Duality, and it was right when a lot of the really, some of the special effects, like After Effects and Avid, things that your average Joe couldn't really get his hands on, was starting to become much more available to just your everyday fan. And somebody had done a fan film, and it was like, right around that time, one of the guys had like a double-edged, lightsaber, like Darth Maul, and et cetera, and the visuals were really good. So yeah, I mean, the bottom line was when we saw that, I mean, it probably made us and a lot of people go, "Oh my God, I want to make a movie now. I want to do, I want to make something." And I kind of felt like the level of the effects with this was almost on par with that, where it's impressive, but you can still look at it now and kind of go, "Oh yeah, well I know how they did that," or "I know how they did that." So yeah, I felt like a lot of that aged, not poorly, but just I could feel that it was cutting edge then, and now I'm looking at it kind of going, yeah, okay. And there were moments too where I thought the style kind of flipped around a lot. Like I can remember even the opening shot with Josh Hartnett. When you look at the buildings in the background, I remember thinking like in some of the shots, the buildings look like real buildings. And in other shots, they were kind of like these comic booky buildings. And it was almost like I kind of was thinking to myself, well, make up your mind. Like, I mean, like pick one and stick with it. Having said all that, the stories, which we should break down individually, were all good. I mean, they were very interesting, fun, exciting stories. I mean, again, one of the aspects of this and doing a story like this was the hyper violence. You know, and again, they do it in a way that it's graphic, but also stylish and comic booky in its own way. So it was pretty interesting. I mean, it still is a fun watch. You know, there was no part of me at all that was bored watching it.
No, I find it impossible to be bored in this movie. It's too damn kinetic. It's just too much happening, too much visual information, too much of strong performances.
Yeah.
You know, for such relatively... There isn't a lot of nuance to these characters. These characters are very two-dimensional, and I feel like that's on purpose.
Exactly, yeah.
Given the nature of the plot and everything like that. But yet, there's something likable about them. Even the scumbags, even Powers Booth's Rourke character was just compelling as hell. And Rutger Hauer's, priest character was just compelling as hell.
Yeah.
And
cast-wise, the cast is a home run. Yeah, you really... Okay, all right, well, I'm ready. Okay, tell.
Well, let's just say there's one weak portion to the entire cast. We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. I mean, but you had Benicio del Toro just knocking it out of the park with that. You had Mickey Rourke just... I loved his character in this movie.
Yeah.
I loved his performance in this movie. Everything about his character. He's the most ridiculous looking character on the planet, but so self-aware, so earnest, so straightforward, and you almost appreciate that two-dimensionalness a little bit,
Yeah, no, I do. The makeup on him is tremendous too, by the way. I thought, what a great job with that makeup. That look of him is
right
great.
out of the comic. Right out of the comic.
I mean, just spot on, spectacular.
So you've got that. You've got Bruce Willis kind of not, I like when Bruce Willis doesn't phone it in. And he doesn't do that very often. A lot of Bruce Willis's roles is, it's a paycheck. Yeah, every once in a while, he'd be like, oh, this is something different. And when he gets those, this is something different, he's actually good. And I kind of felt like this was one of those, this is something different moments for him, because I felt like this wasn't Die Hard, this wasn't anything like, like he's not bored. Like, even when we were watching Glass with Bruce Willis, it's like, he was like, I've always wanted to do this, that's why I'm here. But I'm not 100% sure. This man, you could read this man and his true feeling about a movie just by the way he takes the performance.
Yeah. Agreed. I'll give you that. So I'm dying to hear about the rest of the cast that you're not crazy about.
Only one person. Jessica Alba is a beautiful woman.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
That's it.
Yeah.
She kind of has... The relationship between her and Hartigan is kind of the centerpiece of their story. The fact that she's having, not Stockholm syndrome, but whatever it is, the heroin complex. I'm sure there's some kind of technical name for it, for the Hartigan character.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the young version of the Nancy character made me believe that this man was her whole world from now on.
Yeah.
The adult version made me believe that if I just smile at him, that's enough to let him know that I love him.
It made me believe that strip clubs in Sin City are very PG-13.
Well, there's that too. I mean, in the comic, she was always naked all the time. So
yeah. I mean, it's funny too because once somebody pointed that out to me, I was like, oh yeah, like everybody's naked throughout the whole rest of the movie, but then he goes into the strip club. And she's dancing around in like fully clothed with long pants and everything.
She is an attractive woman. She is not an actress. Okay, she didn't make me believe a damn thing with her and Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
When Bruce Willis, and he's sitting there and he's trying to deny himself. She's a beautiful woman. It's been years. He doesn't have a wife anymore, and he's going through that conflict of should he or shouldn't he?
Right.
She is of age and so on and so forth. It's like, nice job, bub. I get you, but she didn't make me feel like anything at all. Like, I don't know what he's feeling for her. I see, I buy it. What you're feeling for him just feels like, oh, the script says so it must be. It's like nothing. It's like Rosario Dawson and
Clive Owen.
Clive Owen. Yes, thank you, Jesus. Those two in their scenes together made me think those two were having sex. And they freaking loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny too because the other week I thought you were actually going to mention the Brittany Murphy character, and I kind of felt
but she wasn't a central character. She was just a side character.
She was just passing through real fast. But yeah, I remember kind of wondering when he got back with Rosario Dawson. I remember kind of going like, well, why was he with the Brittany character before this then? Like, it doesn't really make a whole heap of sense. And by the way, I thought that. I didn't quite get why Benicio del Toro's character wore the makeup. Like, he wore the facial prosthetics, which made him look almost completely different. And I kind of thought, like, it's an interesting choice, but, I mean, honestly, he's scarier looking without it. So I kind of felt like, why would you even bother to change that character? Unless for some reason he had to look as closer to how he did in the comic. But I didn't quite get that choice. And not only that, they put him very prominently on the poster, wearing the makeup, so you didn't even know it was him anyway. So I didn't quite understand that choice. Not that it bothered me at all, but I just didn't get why.
It is in line with what his character was in the comics. Miller has this thing with very square noses. And if you notice, every single character's nose is like this perfectly chiseled nose. And that even goes in with the Marv character, whose nose is like so chiseled that it literally looks chiseled.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know why they chose that with the Rafferty character. Why they chose the makeup. And I'll be honest with you, it was distracting for a minute, and then I got over it.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't badly done. I mean, you sort of can tell because like part of it was just a little unusual for a regular human face. But again, I just kind of felt like, well, why would they cover up Benicio del Toro? Like, I mean, he's a very well-known actor and he's as creepy as they come. So I kind of felt like you kind of toned him down a little bit by doing that. So I'm not really sure why.
I guess because in the end, he wound up being the linchpin for the plot. For the cops versus the prostitutes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think they kind of maybe needed to tone it, I don't know, make him look less severe, make him seem somewhat... Because he's supposed to be a hero cop in the end.
Yeah.
Just 1 hour to go. My last day on the job. Early retirement. Not my idea. Doctor's orders. Heart condition. I'm polishing my badge and getting myself used to the idea of saying goodbye to it. It and the 30-odd years of protecting and serving and tears and blood and terror, triumph that represents. I'm thinking about Eileen's slow smile, about the thick, fat steak she picked up at the butcher's today. And I'm thinking about the one loose end I haven't tied up. A young girl who's out there somewhere, helpless in the hands of a drooling lunatic.
So why don't let's talk about each story a little bit, because I kind of feel like I want to give this movie its due, and I feel like I'm kind of brushing over it by talking about the technical stuff.
All right, well, you've got the first plot. The first plot is introduced with Mr. Willis and Mr. Madsen playing cops, trying to find a serial child diddler, Nick Stahl, who is the son of Senator Rourke and who has a predilection for young girls. So they get him. Bruce Willis shoots his hand off, shoots his penis off. Then his partner tries to kill him, goes to jail. He's kept alive just so that he can be tortured more. That's plot one. And as the movie progresses, he finally confesses to killing her when he thinks they're going to find her. So he goes out to try and protect her, but it turns out it was a ruse so that they could find her. Big revenge scene. And in my life, I never thought I would ever see the day that Bruce Willis would reach down between a guy's legs and pull off his artificial penis.
Yeah, that was something else. And and here's the question: why does the guy look so different later? Why has he got a yellow face and is all deformed?
They kind of try to explain that when he shut off his ear and shut off his hand, that his father, in trying to fix him, did a lot of experimental stuff so that he can try to, give him a heir to the Rourke Empire, and that it was supposedly a side effect of all the experiments that they did to him, including the terrible smell that they kept, associating with him.
Yeah. All right. Very good. All right.
Not very good. I mean, it's a comic book little plot. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah. It was. I thought it worked fine. I didn't have a problem with it.
The night is hot as hell. It's a lousy room in a lousy part of a lousy town. I'm staring at a goddess. She's telling me she wants me. I'm not gonna waste one more second wondering how I've gotten so lucky. Goldie. She says her name is Goldie.
But then we get to Marv's story, which I think is much more... I kind of feel like if you're going to remember anything about this film, it's the Marv story.
And it's why they brought him back for the sequel.
Yeah.
Marv's story was the best of all the stories, I felt.
And it was very clear cut. Like, it's a very... It doesn't require a lot of explanation. You don't really have to figure out who's who and why. It starts off at the right place. He goes off on his thing. I mean, you know, like it was the easiest to follow for damn sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I feel like Mickey Rourke giving it his 110% is also another reason why it was so damn compelling.
Yeah.
So you had that, and you had I got to point this out because when it first happened in the film, I had no idea this was going to happen. But when it first happened in the film, I was like, "Oh look, it's Frodo Baggins." And then Frodo, then Elijah Wood gets, introduces us to the character of Kevin. It's like, oh my God, that's not Frodo.
Yeah,
I gotta give the guy credit. He must have really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, and another one too. Like I kind of feel like when you watch it, you're kind of going, oh, like Kevin for some reason is wildly powerful, can sneak up on him, can outfight. I mean, you watch Marv like beat the crap out of like multiple guys without breaking a sweat. And then suddenly Kevin shows up and he's super powered, I guess. And they never really say why.
I like to think of it as it's the difference between a sledgehammer and a scalpel. Both can do some damage, but in the hands of an expert, a scalpel could do a hell of a lot worse than a sledgehammer.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good pairing, and it is kind of funny that Kevin looks. I mean, like seriously, he looks like he just got out of school. He's wearing sneakers and whatever, and the glasses. So I mean, it's a funny. I mean, there's a lot. Basically, what I'm saying is that there's a lot of things in this movie that they do without any explanation. It's just sort of weirdness, and I guess that's kind of why why comic stories are interesting and why they're good fodder for movies like this. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like afterwards you kind of go, all right, well, why was that? Did I miss something? I mean, it's seriously things I probably wouldn't even be thinking about unless we were going to sit here and review it.
The one thing about this movie, and it's something that you have to take into consideration, okay, it is a visually stunning movie, but once you get past the visually stunning, don't expect a lot more. It's really not meant to be higher art than beyond the visual. The plot is very generic.
Yeah.
Each of the plots are very generic. Each of the characters are two-dimensional. The surprising thing about this movie is that you would think with those limitations that immediately that would make it like a no-go. For whatever reason, it works.
Yeah.
It still works, even with these two things that I have decried many times with movies. But there's something about the style and the, here's the way I think of it maybe. You know how we said that one of the problems with the DC movies with Zack Snyder at the helm, it was almost like they were embarrassed that they were comic book movies?
Yeah.
Maybe the difference is that like these guys, it's like, no, it's a comic book movie and that's fine. That's what we're making here and we're damn proud of it. Maybe that's the difference.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I mean, you can tell by watching this that he was so in love with the original comics that he really just wanted to get as close as he could. I mean, there are shots in this film. I mean, if you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff and you watch some of the side by sides of the comic to the actual final product, some of it is just amazing how spot on they were.
He also had to fight to get Frank Miller a Directors Guild credit. Did you know that?
I heard something about that in there. Yeah.
And because I don't think Frank Miller actually physically directed any of the scenes. It was one of those things where Rodriguez was like, I basically aped this man's art style. That makes him the director.
Yeah.
That was his reasoning for getting a director's credit, and he got it.
And you got to give it to Rodriguez. I mean, this is a guy who does. He really does deserve a lot of credit. And I kind of feel like like when we're talking about Rodriguez, I'm either calling him a genius or I'm ripping on him for being a one-trick pony. So I'm probably a little I got multiple personalities when it comes to him. But yeah, I mean,
which is understandable. He can be uneven sometimes. Please, go on.
So, but I think here's a case where he really does deserve a lot of credit. I mean, and again, not only for his own style and everything he brought to this film, but also in terms of just giving credit where it's due, and respecting where it came from. To say this guy is, I mean, for me to take his work and do this with it, he deserves at least half of the credit, if not more.
Yeah, 100%. Because the love of the original novels is all over the damn place.
Yeah.
So much so. And yes, Frank Miller also did make a cameo appearance as the priest that Marv shot trying to find out Rourke's name. So that was Frank Miller.
Gotcha. Very cool.
So the fact that the movie works in any respect is still kind of amazing to me. I'm gonna wind up giving it, I wouldn't say it's not getting a 10. I can tell you it's not getting a 10, but it's still going to get a high rating for me. And even as I was watching it again, I was still struck by, because I was saying to myself, okay, this is a 14-year-old movie, this of a style that's been lifted and aped a little bit. The look of it has not been lifted and aped except when Frank Miller directed The Spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, because you can't really ape this look without people saying, oh well, it's just a Sin City ripoff, in which I think Frank Miller found out the hard way. But that aside. But the stylization of the movie has kind of been aped ever since. I mean, I will absolutely say, as I was watching this movie, the first thing I was thinking of as I'm watching it is Kingsman. It came into my head many times as I was watching this movie. It's like Kingsman is trying to be a more grounded version of this style of action. And I'm not 100% sure if it really does. It was fun to watch in Kingsman, but I don't necessarily know if it works as well there as it does here.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my hesitation as I was coming in, because I knew that there was a parallel. But as I'm watching this, it's like, no, now, weirdly, this movie makes Kingsman look worse. Because Kingsman put itself in like, oh, this is real world, but it's got all this other stuff. But here it's like, no, this is a crazy world. Yeah. We know it's a crazy world, and this is the way it is. Now I kind of feel like, in a way, it's almost demeaned my experience with movies that have come from this since. Because I almost forgot that this is the origin point for this style of action that Rodriguez created, I suppose you could say. Because, I mean, okay, you had The Matrix and stuff like that, and there's a kind of Matrix-y quality in some respects to it, simply because of the amount of visual effects, but yet he still puts his Rodriguez-y spin on it. The man is... If the man said, I'm never directing again, I'm going to be an editor, I would be like, that's fine. You are one hell of a freaking editor, buddy.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm Shelley's new boyfriend, and I'm out of my mind. You ever so much as talk to Shelley again, you even think her name, and I'll cut you in ways that'll make you useless to a woman.
You're making a big mistake, man. A big mistake.
Yeah? You already made a big mistake yourself. You didn't flush.
The other hard part about this movie is because of the fact that it's basically visually based and doesn't really give a lot in the way of characterizations. I mean, the next plot, we're talking about the different plots. The next plot is Clive Owen's plot, where he, beats up an abusive guy, then starts falling around. Turns out he's a cop. The cop's death is going to, start a war in Old Town and all that other stuff. And, aside from enjoying some of the looks of the prostitutes in Old Town, I felt that story was the weakest of them. I didn't really feel a lot of emotional connection to any of the characters, even though two-dimensional that they were. And the fact that they were kind of hinting that there was this whole big change to the Clive Owen character that had occurred to him, but they never really paid that off, was kind of semi-disappointing to me.
Oh, yeah. What was that about?
Exactly. They didn't really say.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all. Again, a lot of things in this movie that are like that. Like I said, that don't really get explanations, and that was one. But that was weirder.
Because they pointed it out. It was when if you just show Kevin is a guy who's got these claws for hands and he could jump up and down and beat the hell out of Marv, it's like you kind of. But when a character, in fact, I think it was two characters that pointed it out.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you do that, it kind of feels like, well, where's the payoff to that?
Right, right. That absolutely positively did not need to be mentioned at all. And yeah, there was nothing. You're right. There was absolutely no payoff at all. That was a weird one.
Yeah, not 100% sure
Yeah.
I got where I was going with that. And this isn't against anything against Clive Owen or Rosario Dawson or any of the action in that scenes. Devin Akai was seriously kick-ass in her little part, even though she said nothing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I guess that I again, it worked for me for the most part. Not that the story was anything great, but in terms of just sort of keeping my attention, and I wasn't really bored during it. In that respect, I felt like it worked okay. But yeah, I mean, if there was a weak point, that was probably it. I mean, probably the point when the Irish terrorists show up or the Irish mercenaries show up.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get that, like what they were all about. And then like there's a part where they fall down in like a sewer or a pit, and it's Clive Owen with the one guy who was in Gladiator with the scar on his face.
Yeah, he was also in Sons of Anarchy as well.
Okay. And he's like, he's all like, oh, I love bombs, but you, I'm gonna cut with a knife. But he throws a grenade at him, and of course, I mean, like overly comic booky style. Somebody throws a grenade at you, yes, it'll throw you 20 feet, and then you'll brush yourself off, and you're fine. So, whatever.
We'll fight the cops and the mob. We'll go to war.
This isn't some barroom, bro. This is the bad days, the all or nothing days. They're back.
Sin City. What do you got, Joe?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of, it didn't exactly age well for me. I'll just say it. I did feel like watching it again this time. I was really sort of focused more on, like, it's hard to put into words what it is exactly that kind of bothers me, because I feel like on one hand, the film goes to great lengths to create a very stylized visual look, and then there are other moments where I was feeling that something about it was kind of lazy, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I was really tempted, honestly. I almost watched Sin City 2 because I was kind of curious to see if they had. I mean, I've seen it before, but I forget it. I haven't seen it since I saw it originally. And I was sort of curious to see if that movie would sort of make me feel a little bit different, better or worse, about this one in that respect. Like, did they polish up a couple things that I thought could have used it or whatever? But yeah, I just sort of felt like there were some things in this that were just so kind of flat, and something was missing. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Again, a lot of the audio, a lot of it kind of bothered me because, again, I felt like the fact that I can hear sort of an echo in the soundstage, and they didn't bother to mic people better or to do dubbing later. So yeah, and the stories are good. I feel like they come right out of those comics with very little change at all. So again, are those stories enough to fill a whole feature film? And again, I don't really, like I said, it's not that I got a severe problem with anything, but I kind of feel like that mark that they were aiming for was just maybe just a little shy in a certain, they were shy of their mark a few places. So I think I'm gonna give this movie a 7, which is kind of harsh, I think, but I'd say it's a high 7, and I really was debating back and forth between an 8. And I'm wondering if next week I'll come back and kind of feel a little bit differently once I see the other one again.
Which is possible.
Yeah, because I mean, again, he might have had more time to sort of, perfect the vision that he was looking for with this, and it might make me kind of be a little, not quite as judgmental of this one. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with the 7. I think it's a solid movie. It's very entertaining, and I was not bored watching it. And I'll call it a high 7. And I kind of feel like it's a good movie and it is worth your time. But yeah, it didn't quite age as well as I thought it was going to, and I didn't feel as compelled with it this time around.
It definitely didn't age as well as you would hope. Its limitations of its time frame are a little more glaring now, and the hard part is that we have gone back and reviewed movies that are older than this movie, whose visuals still hold up even to this day, and that's kind of one of the limitations to Rodriguez. He becomes almost slavishly devoted to an idea that sometimes he forgets to apply it to the tone of the movie.
Yeah.
To have it all blend together so that it stays relatively consistent. And also, sometimes his storytelling can be a little bit weak, which we talked about. And he becomes so enamored with certain actors and actresses that he works with that he doesn't question whether they're actually good in their part, as opposed to, hey, these are people that I'm friendly with, I want them in my movie.
Yes, very true, very true.
I also gave the movie a 7. I still like it a lot.
I like you a lot.
I still find it visually compelling. I still find the Mickey Rourke segment to be my favorite story of the entire thing. But it suffers a lot from the two-dimensionalness of the characters, the very cliche plots that really didn't have a lot of surprise in it, the hyper-violence that it brought about in this world. It's neat and everything like that, but it weirdly, I'm kind of torn on this one. It was used perfectly here, I kind of felt, but it also had an inevitable afterbirth where I've seen stuff like this since then so many times that it's like I've become numb to it, and I almost can't appreciate the grandfather for it all anymore.
Yeah.
It's a great flick. It's a fun flick. It's a movie you should absolutely positively check out, but don't expect anything more than an extremely visually beautiful movie that is clunky here and there.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm with you there. It's I'm actually surprised. I kind of thought you were gonna go a little higher, but
no.
Yeah, okay. I for some reason I thought you might have even been going with a 9. I was surprised.
Oh no, dude. I mean, as much as I love the movie, I'm nowhere. I'm not that. Yeah. I'm not that stupid. I'm not.
Yeah, I think we probably would agree that the concept. We'd rate the concept a little higher than the execution.
Yeah. That sometimes happens with Rodriguez,
sure.
So that's okay.
All right, but as far as who asked you,
some sound design choices which were off is a huge thing that I'm, not a big fan. You pointed it out, so I'm glad you pointed it out before I had a chance to. But honestly, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier in the show. Okay, Jessica Alba is a beautiful woman. She is not an actress. She's not an actress. She didn't make me feel anything for her character. The younger version of her character made me feel more for her character than the older version. When you're surrounded by all these actors who recognize, okay, this is kind of ridiculous, but you know what? This is fun, and they go with it, and they do their best. Especially Bruce Willis, who wears his enjoyment of a movie on a sleeve, depending upon the movie.
Yeah.
And he's actually giving it his all here, and here she is barely phoning it in. The most work she put into the part was the way she gyrated her hips and threw the lasso around. That was the biggest thing she did. Nothing else about her character did I buy once it became her.
Yeah.
She is the weak link in this entire movie. Second, maybe only to Brittany Murphy, but Brittany Murphy's character wasn't as important a character in the movie as hers. So there it is.
I agree with you there. I actually am just gonna stick with my comments about the sound design. You mentioned it too. Honestly, I thought for something that was so, and Rodriguez should kind of know better, because he does. I mean, he scores his own films. He does a lot of his own sound effects and his mixing. So I kind of feel like that was something he should have been aware of. And honestly, there were parts when like I said, when I can hear him going, all right, Hardigan, yada, yada. Maybe they couldn't get Michael Madsen back in to do some dubbing. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for that. But I remember just thinking, like, wow, is that oddly obvious? For people who were supposed to be standing outside on a pier, and it's almost like it didn't even matter where they were. And so and when you hear him talking and he's obviously standing on a soundstage, I found that to be wildly frustrating.
Yeah.
However, on a positive note.
For your consideration. Here's the thing. Originally, I was going to give For Your Consideration for, it's funny how we started at the beginning of the show with, what the hell is production design? And this movie kind of makes me think, wow, well, this feels like what production design is. The look and tone of the film is gorgeous. But even Rodriguez would say that, well, no, I just aped, something that the master did before me. That's all. So I want to give it to that, and I want to point it out. And I want to point it out to Rodriguez for being the class act that he is, to make sure that he that everybody knows that this is Frank Miller's story. I'm just adapting it.
Yeah.
And he really, even to this day, even as you're watching it, it's very evident that he makes sure that Frank Miller gets his day in court. But the thing is, back in 2005, I didn't think much of the actor Mickey Rourke. I felt like he hadn't done anything that really ever impressed me. This is before The Wrestler. The Wrestler comes along and changes my perspective completely about Mickey Rourke. But this was the impetus of my, you know what? Maybe Mickey Rourke isn't all that bad after all. I loved his performance as Marv, and I could watch that segment alone over and over again and feel quite satisfied every time. He just embodied it so perfectly. It was just a well-told story. I'm giving it to Mickey Rourke for my consideration this week, honestly.
And I'm right there with you. That was mine as well. And I kind of wish I had a little more imagination. But yeah, I couldn't not pick Mickey Rourke because again, not only is it was just sort of the perfect melding. He was the perfect actor to play this particular character. The prosthetics, the facial prosthetic, and the makeup, flawless. I mean, honestly, I kind of felt like there was not a moment where I doubted or thought it looked wrong. They really made him into this comic book character and nailed it,
Yeah.
And I really was sort of surprised how well it worked.
How many times did he say the line, "I have a condition"? And a repetitive line like that, after a while, you would start rolling your eyes with. But as it went along, it was almost like every time he said it, my sympathy for the character increased.
Yeah.
That's a sign of tremendous acting and excellent directing. So yeah, I got to give it that to that.
I agree with you 100%. I'm with you. I'm actually surprised how much we agreed on this movie. I thought I thought I was going to be picking on it and you were going to defend it.
No, dude. Listen, I have had my moments where I have been blindly allegiant to something that truly spoke to me, but 9 times out of 10, I've always admitted it. Even when you said Ready Player One was like your worst movie of last year, I accepted that. I understood.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't your cup of tea, and that's fine. That's just the way life is. So of course, yeah, we agree more often than we don't. We should work on that.
Right. We need to find some things that we will wildly debate or something.
Walk down the right back alley in Sin City, and you can find anything.
Maybe next week, Joe, because I get the feeling next week's going to be even more fun.
Yeah, I honestly, I did feel like after I watched Sin City, and again, to its credit, not only did I enjoy it, but it did make me more curious about the next one. So I am curious to see where we go with that one.
I got to be honest with you, I don't remember the second one. So we'll see. So the next week should hopefully be a little more interesting, ladies and gentlemen, although I don't think today was all that uninteresting. I thought we had some nice, lively talks.
Agreed.
But yes, next week we're going to close out the Sin City chapter, at least where it is for now. Who knows? Maybe 10 years from now he'll do a third sequel.
There you go.
As we cover Sin City, A Dame to Kill For.
Interesting title.
Indeed. That dame is played by Eva Green. Eva Green, I love you.
And we get a lot of Eva Green in this movie, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
He means boobies. So until next week, my man. Here I was giving us credit for being classy, and I end it like that.
Well, we gave it a shot.
Until next week, sir. Excellent. Thank you.
Good show, my friend, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode, and be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube for spoiler-free reviews of new releases. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider becoming a Patreon. You can find our page on patreon.com/reviewswithoutremorse, one word. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are for commentary and critique and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.